Hi friends! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Julianne and I'm a Polymer Clay Sculptor. I know it's been months since I've uploaded a tutorial, but today is the day that I come back. We're gonna be doing something different today. As you may have noticed, my previous 2 to 3 videos maybe are Zelda related videos. And I don't know if you follow me on my social media, but you probably have seen that I love gacha games. I've been told that one of the games I played back in maybe a year ago has had new updates. And by new updates, I mean new characters. And it's from the game Love And Deepspace. And one of the characters that I'm interested in is Sylus. And you know me, I basically have 2 reasons to sculpt a character. It's either I'm obsessed with the game and I love the character so much and I can't stop thinking about them. And number 2 is I just love how they look. I'm obsessed with Sylus's design. So yeah, please stick around and watch me sculpt Sylus from Love and Deepspace. Like always, I'm going to be using my trusty silicone molds for the face and the body. I like using them instead of sculpting by hand so my figurines are uniform in size and also to save some time. I then add the armature wire in this step as well. This ensures the details stay intact. If I add the wire later, I'm going to have to maneuver the wire through the torso, squishing the clay and deforming it. I made the neck a little thicker since this figurine is gonna have a big head, and then I clean up the seams by blending them out using my tools and my fingers and some acetone on a Q-tip for the finer, hard-to-reach lines. Next is sculpting the face. I use a tile block when sculpting the faces so I can work on it without the risk of deforming it by holding it too much. And I can put the entire thing in the oven too. I don't have to transfer it, which can also ruin the face. I won't be going into detail with how I sculpted his face, or this video is gonna be an hour long, but I do have a Patreon exclusive video on making the faces of my figures, and that's basically how I sculpted this too. I baked them a little bit to, quote, save my progress, so I can hold them and add stuff to them without ruining the details. I then bent the armature to the pose that I'm going for, and I sculpted around it with black clay for his pants. I straight up used black clay for this one since his pants are pretty straightforward and he doesn't show some skin in this specific outfit. I used my trusty tools to blend it to his torso. I just added some creases and wrinkles to make it look like fabric somehow. I did the same thing for the other leg. I baked it again to save my work. forgot to film the first steps I did here, but basically, I just rolled out a piece of black clay for his shirt and started wrapping it around his body. I always have a reference open while sculpting, so I'm just basing it off of that and cutting out pieces where I need to. I used thinner strips of clay for his collar and body strap, and some silver clay for the buckles and his accessories. I like using my silicone tool when moving the tiny details around because it's flexible and doesn't leave marks for the most part. I think I enjoyed adding this detail the most. For the red streak on his shirt, I used some liquid clay mixed with red clay to make a paste, and I just painted it on the shirt. It helps that the consistency is thicker so the streaks are more defined. I added more of his accessories using my silicone tool. Next, I added his shoes and secured them to the bottom of his pants. I sculpted more of his accessories after baking it again, like his belt and all of the metal parts on it. It's pretty detailed, so I spent quite some time sculpting it. I used more black clay to add the soles of his shoes. Now onto the hands. This used to be one of my favorite things to sculpt, but I started getting my nails done and suddenly, sculpting tiny hands isn't sunshine and rainbows anymore. I basically just use my X-Acto knife to separate the fingers and smooth out the harsh edges with my metal rod and my own fingers. I then cut it and attached the arm to some more black colored clay to serve as his rolled up sleeves. I secured the arm to the body, added some fabric creases, and did the same thing with the other arm. Final touches to the sleeves were added after another bake. Now, Sylus has this short coat that he just covers his shoulders with, and the red inner lining is visible to the front. So I rolled out some black and dark red clay, layered them together, and rolled them out thinly. I then cut it to size and just wrapped it over his back and shoulders, Trim the excess clay and smooth out the seams. I did another bake before adding the coat sleeves. In my reference, they're quite flowy as they're like captured in motion, so I definitely struggled positioning them when gravity is working against me. Lastly, I attached the coat's collar. Before this goes into the oven again, I wanted to attach the head first. I made an aluminum ball to go inside the head so I wouldn't use up too much clay and make the figure too heavy. I then mixed up some light gray clay for Sylus's hair and wrapped it around the foil ball and attached it to the face I made. I poked a hole first to where the neck would be affixed so I don't mess up the placement, then finally attaching it to the body. I forgot to film it, but I poked some holes at the top of his head before partially baking. This helps the hot air that gets trapped inside the foil ball escape to prevent it from forming bubbles and cracking. I also added more clay at the seam on his neck to secure it in place. I then proceeded to add clumps of hair, starting from the back of his head, working my way up. Here I also attached his ears, blended them out, and sculpted some details on them. Then it goes in the oven for, you guessed it, another bake. Now that the lower parts are cured, I can now add more hair at the top of his head without the risk of deforming the previous details that I sculpted. I created a base for that by placing a sheet of that same light gray clay at the top and just built on it. I'm using my metal rods and fingers again to make some indents and lines that mimic animated hair, and I add more hair clumps to areas that need them. I enjoy doing the front pieces the most because that's when the figurine all comes together. Before the final bake, I'm gonna make the clay pieces for the base. In his art, Sylus has this red energy spikes coming out of the floor, so we're gonna make just that. I'm using the same kind of armature wire as the one in his body and just twisted them together and secured them with masking tape. I then roughly mixed up some black, dark red, and bright red colored clay to make the swirly pattern on the spikes and wrap that mixture around the wire. It doesn't have to be perfect and you don't really need to overthink the shape too much. It's literally just an unstable energy spike, so it doesn't have a definite shape. I'm just copying the shape from the reference photo and use my metal tools again to add more definition where I see fit. Finally, all the clay pieces went into the oven for one final bake and we're basically done with sculpting. Let's now move on to assembling the base. I'm using UV resin as it easily cures under a UV lamp in a matter of seconds. I got the spiky pieces out of the oven and started mixing some colors. I mixed up two colors, a dark red color and just pure black. These pieces are now ready to be attached to the base. As usual, I opened up my reference and mapped out where each piece would go. Even though the spikes are cured, you can still bend them a little bit and shape them however you see fit. I used a little bit of the black resin to first secure the pieces in place. It's better that it's spilling to the sides like this, so when you cure it under the UV light, it's going to cement that piece onto the base. And I just did that to all the remaining clay pieces. Once they're attached and won't go anywhere, I then covered the whole bottom with red resin first. I spread it out to the edges before adding the black resin to the bare areas. I just swirled the two colors together until it looks good to me and added some streaks to the clay parts too. I used a blowtorch to pop the air bubbles of the resin and painstakingly cured the whole thing under the UV lamp. I did the final touches off camera, but I basically just coated the entire thing in resin to make it glossy, and it looks good. I also drilled a hole in it where Sylus would stand. Another final detail I added was this energy ball in his hand and also coated that in resin. I put Sylus on the base, admired him for a little bit, took some pictures with close-ups, and we're done. It's been so long since I've uploaded a video, but my ever so lovely patrons always got me. Thank you everyone for your continued support, and I appreciate you all, and see you in the next video. Bye!